Laura Trump coming to you from my home in New York. As states begin to reopen, it's now time to restore America. President Donald Trump did it once before, and he's the leader who will do it again. Joining me is the United States Senator from the great state of South Carolina, Lindsey Graham. Senator Graham, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Laura. You, my neighbor from North Carolina.
We won't get into a debate as to the better of the two Carolinas, but we are neighbors, and we're excited to have you on. Listen, we're all in a unique situation during the time of coronavirus. I think it's pretty safe to say Americans are ready to get back to normal, especially ready to get back to work. What advice, Senator Graham, do you have for President Trump to restore our economy?
Well, number one, keep listening to the docs out there. I think the president has probably saved 1 million to 2 million Americans from a very horrible death. To all those who wonder, did we do the right thing? We're about 70,000 now, Americans dying from the virus, having locked the world down. Can you imagine what would happen if we'd let this thing run wild?
Yeah.
I've talked to the president a lot. He says, not on my watch. I'm going to do what I need to. Life is important. He is pro-life, and he had to do what he had to do. Now we're turning the corner. The key to going back to normal is having a vaccine that can immunize us against the virus. There's a study being done in Oxford, England. Talked to Larry Ellison, the head of Oracle, yesterday. I'm super excited about the results that are being achieved in England. And then hopefully by the fall, we'll have a vaccine on the horizon. Drug therapies to keep people out of the hospital and keep people from the mortality rates going down are very promising. So as we begin to open up the country, keep washing your hands, social distancing, be patient, follow the guidelines, and I think we'll come roaring back. Now, here's your choice. You got Trump and Biden. These are your two choices. Who do you think is most capable of restoring a strong economy? That's not a hard question. It's not a trick question. Look what President Trump did in 3 years of reviving the economy after 8 years of Obama. Right. This is not a hard choice. If you're looking for somebody to get us back in the economic game, I would pick the guy that restored the economy, not the guy that put a wet blanket on it. That would be Biden.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think that Americans need to remember that as they head to vote on November 3rd of this year. President Trump did it once. He can do it again, and he will do it again. And I think we can get back to even better than we were before under a second term of President Trump. But Senator Graham, we should make sure that we never find ourselves in a situation like this again. And we also need to get to the root of the problem. Why and where did this start? We know it originated in China. And there are a lot of theories out there that it originated in a wet market in China, something that I really appreciate your great support on. You've been very outspoken against wet markets. President Trump has already restructured our relationship with China. He's been doing it for quite some time now. So post-coronavirus, how should we hold China accountable? What should be done there?
Well, so I think there's the election before the coronavirus. There's election after the coronavirus. I think one of the biggest issues on people's mind in November will be, who do I want in the arena with China? Do I want Joe Biden, who went to China and allowed his son to get a $1.5 billion investment portfolio from a Chinese bank? Or do I want somebody who's seen China for the bad actor they are for 30 years? One reason Donald Trump is president of the United States is immigration in China. So what do? We know it didn't come from Trump Tower. And what bothers me the most is that Democrats have got an investigative panel in the House to look at President Trump, not China. That's pretty sick.
Unbelievable.
The reason they can't go there is because if they admit that China's the bad actor in this horror movie, it proves President Trump right. This is a huge issue. I'm going to introduce legislation next week that says when it comes to protective equipment for doctors and nurses and our healthcare workers and EMTs and firemen and all that good stuff, that we're going to buy American. There's a provision in our law that requires the military to purchase American clothing. You
Yep.
don't want your military dependent upon uniforms made overseas. I'm going to add PPE in the very amendment, requiring the United States to bring the medical supply chain when it comes to gowns and masks back in the United States like we clothe the military. I'll be curious to see what Democrats do. I've got a bill to sanction China until they allow us to investigate how the virus started. Was it an accident in the lab that went to a wet market? Was it somebody eating bat soup in the wet market? I don't know. But I do know this. This is the third pandemic to come out of China, and the wet markets are the source of most all of it. As
Yep.
you well know, and I want to compliment you, this is May 5th, 2020, and people are still consuming cats and dogs, puppies and kittens as part of
Unbelievable.
the human food chain in China and other parts of the world. And you have focused like a laser. These wet markets are seafood markets, but they also have bats and monkeys that are brought in from exotic wildlife refugee areas, and they're full of all these viruses, and they contaminate food supply. Let's close these markets. Stop eating bats. Stop eating dogs. Stop eating cats. We're going to make a big deal about this, and we're going to have Democrats voting. Who do they blame, Trump or China? I blame China.
Well, we know who they'd like to blame, Senator
Yeah,
Graham. There's no doubt there.
yeah.
But you make some great points, and I think that at the end of this, people are going to pay attention and they're going to look at what the Democrats are doing. Americans are very smart, and they're going to see who is voting on behalf of America and Americans, and who is siding with China on this. And I think that the decision is going to be pretty easy for people after that. Restoring America should also include restoring trust in our law enforcement agencies, Senator Graham. And we see so much happening right now within the FBI, whether you're talking about Michael Flynn and what happened there. There's a whole plethora of things, the handling of the Mueller investigation, etc. How do we get back there? How do we restore trust in our law enforcement agencies?
Well, number one, the average FBI agent and CIA agent are American patriots. This is a chapter in American history that never should be repeated again. This is a handful of people who hated President Trump, had a political agenda, and took the law in their own hands. How do you restore trust? People have to go to jail that violated the law, and people should be fired who broke the rules. You got Durham, the U.S. Attorney from Connecticut, has been empowered by Attorney General Barr to look into whether or not people violated the law in the FISA Carter Page warrant situation. If people overstepped the boundaries in the Mueller investigation, did people violate the law investigating President Trump, his team, and your family? I trust Durham to do that. I am not a prosecutor. I'm a politician. The Judiciary Committee, which I lead, will slowly but surely investigate how the FISA court was misled, how you could obtain a warrant against Carter Page on 4 different occasions when the FBI knew that the dossier prepared by Christopher Steele, who was on the payroll of the Democratic Party, was a bunch of garbage. The Russian who provided Steele all the information told the FBI in January 2017, it's a bunch of bar talk, it's a bunch of hearsay, and they kept using it. So I want to know how that could happen. I want to know what Comey knew, what McCabe knew, and when they knew it. We'll be having hearings in the summer. Documents are coming out. A flood of documents are coming out. I think the Mueller investigation was illegitimate from day one. There was zero evidence in August of 2017 that anybody on the Trump campaign was working with the Russians. Quite to the contrary, in January the 4th, 2017, the professional agents in the Washington Bureau cleared General Flynn, saying there's no there. Carter Page's warrant application should have never been renewed after January 2017, when the Russian subsource said the dossier is a bunch of garbage. And Papadopoulos is on tape, not knowing he's being taped in 2016, saying, I don't know any Russians. I'm not working with Russians. If I were working with Russians, that would be treason. There was no, I think, legal predicate for the Mueller investigation. My job is to have a deep dive in that. We're gathering information. Be patient. It's going to take a while. I'm going to do it right. I'm not going to interfere in a criminal investigation, but we will be as transparent as possible to make sure this never happens again. This is J. Edgar Hoover stuff, and it needs to be exposed.
Yeah, well, Senator Lindsey Graham, we thank you for all that you're doing on that front. It's so, so important. Should never happen in the United States of America. And to your point, it never should ever happen again. And we hope that that's the case. We know this is a busy time for you, so we want to say thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for fighting every day for this country. We really appreciate all you do out there.
Well, I'm glad to be part of the team. 1 in 4 judges in America are Trump appointees. Can you imagine 4 more years of being able to appoint conservative judges? That should get everybody excited. We've got to win this race. God bless you. We're all in it together.
You got that right. All right, Senator Lindsey Graham, thank you so, so much. With all the challenges facing our nation, Donald Trump is the right man to restore America once again. That's the real news for today. If you'd like to get involved with Team Trump, go to donaldjtrump.com or download the official Trump 2020 app from the App Store on your iPhone or from the Google Play Store on Android. I'm Laura Trump, coming to you from my home in New York, encouraging you to stay safe throughout this crisis. Thanks for joining us, everybody.